Welcome to Lair Secrets Podcast. Today we're talking about D8 More Shadowdark house rules. I am David Moore. I am preparing for our next arc of our Fallout game while turning pens for the cast and crew of the Dracula play that I am in.
To be clear, pens, not stakes.
Not stakes. But
because I can see how stakes would be useful.
They are made of bloodwood.
Okay, cool. I'm Ken Newquist, and I have calluses from playing Hades 2. It's really just the one on my thumb, but it's getting nice and strong. So, awesome game. Maybe we'll talk about it later. We are doing D8 More Shadowdark house rules, and our first one is a house rule for luck dice by DM Scotty, provided by Matthew McGugin. I apologize in advance if I massacre anybody's name. So, Dave, you looked at these rules. What do you think?
I did. I picked them up. They're 99 cents. It's a very short set of rules. I like the idea. The overview, which is most of the rules, is anytime you fail, you get a D6. And when you are rolling and you might want to succeed, you can then, after you roll, I believe, add in a D6 or 2D6 or as many as you want. D6, and in order to try and get you to succeed. If you still fail while spending those D6, you don't get a luck point, but any other failure, you would get a luck point, or not a luck point, a luck die. I like it in terms of getting luck dice for failure. It gives you something for failing to hit in combat, which right now, Shadowdark is one of those games where if you miss, well, that's your turn.
Right.
You know, you might get to move, but if you swing and a miss, your turn's over. Luckily, Shadowdark turns are very short.
I was going to say, it moves very quickly, so it's not a huge problem. You're not waiting.
It's not a huge problem.
Breaking out a book.
You're not moving in a full action and a bonus action and all sorts of extra stuff for every character. So it will change, in my mind, how Shadowdark plays, though, because it won't be as swingy if you're using a luck token. You know, you can go from a 1 to a 20 with a luck token, but you wouldn't be able to do that with the group of D6s. They're also not, that's also a personal pool. It's not shareable among other party members. And the last thing that I had for it was the more luck you get, the more leaning towards super heroic fantasy you would get. You know, it's like pulp mode. You know, they call it pulp mode because of how over the top multiple luck tokens could be. The same would happen with, in my opinion, with, you know, like I've missed 5 turns in a row. Well, that's 5 die 6 you can throw onto anything, including damage. So
it could be in some ways it could be very swingy too, like in terms of like you struck out for 5 rounds in a row and now suddenly you're going to bring it all back again, which, okay, cool. Actually, that reflects what I'm doing in Hades 2 right now. Not that this podcast episode is about Hades 2, but
yet
I am seeing some parallels. Anyway, our number 2 rule is house rule. I can speak tonight. Our number 2 house rule is dice instead of luck tokens. Maybe a little bit of a similar concept, but different, provided by Brent Norton 1602. He actually provided a variety of a number of these hacks.
Where did we get these, by the way? Where did we get these?
We should probably mention that. YouTube. These were all comments on our YouTube post about house rules for Shadowdark. So thank you, everybody, for contributing comments on this particular thread. I think it was probably one of our most popular ever.
Yeah.
So cool. And maybe after this
credit where credit's due.
Yes. Maybe after this episode and its predecessor pass, we'll have a third, even more Shadowdark house rules. But we digress, as we occasionally are prone to do. So anyway, this house rule is dice instead of luck tokens. And the idea is that you get a D6 per level. So at level 1, you get 1. At level 2, you get 2. They can be used to add or subtract from rolls at the table. It can be shared with others, but can only spend an amount equal to your level. So if you end up with more than 2 at second level, you'd only be able to spend 2. I guess you'd get more if somebody gave you more, right?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. It doesn't sound like there's a refresh mechanic listed here. So I would guess either at the beginning of every session, similar to luck tokens, you would get, well, actually luck tokens is not, you don't always get them at the beginning of every session. So when do you get those? When are they awarded is my only question in terms of how it works. I have thoughts. Do you have thoughts on this?
No, you can go with your thoughts first. I'll riff on your thoughts. You're better prepared for this episode than I am. I did the show notes. But you
did the show notes. I commented on the show notes. I think it sounds like an interesting idea. It does give you the ability to kind of push you just over the edge, but at low level, you can, and you'd be able to tell if like spending a single D6 would be just enough to push you over the edge. Again, you wouldn't have the swinginess as you would with just regular luck tokens. It is definitely a lot less of an impact as DM Scotty's house rule for luck dice, where every single failure you add to your pool and there's no upper limit to the pool size.
A little more constrained. So our third house rule is clerics have miscast tables like wizards. Again, from Brent Norton, 1602. The gods are fickle, plus it's easier if the system is the same for all casters. So this is a interesting concept. We did talk about this one a little bit, and I think so. We should talk about what the normal rule is first, right? So critical failures for wizards, because we talked about this in the D12 mistakes we've made, because I nearly killed my party, right? Or at least killed my wizard with misunderstanding how this works. If you have a critical failure on a spellcasting roll, then you're rolling on the mishap for wizards. If you have a critical failure as a cleric, you have to atone. Did I get that right? Ish.
Mostly. People, just like we used to say luck point, we might get called out because they're actually priests, not clerics. However, yeah, pretty much if you crit fail, you have to atone in some way.
And you lose the spell.
I like the idea of having the systems be the same in some ways, but I also don't.
Well, what do you mean by that, David?
The wizard mishap table is neat, but if we were to have a mishap table, I would like a dedicated priest mishap table, because the wizard mishap table is very arcane centered, not divine centered.
Yeah.
Which means a whole other set of tables that you would need to keep track of.
Yeah, and honestly, I could see taking it a level further and having one for each kind of priest, like each god, right? Because why should all gods have the same mishaps, right? So Odin may punish you different from Hera versus,
or
Loki
Mogdalblub.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I do like on the upside, the thing I like is how that could reinforce the character of those clerics and that religion, right? And also just have maybe some fun with it, right? So like all wine turns to vinegar until you atone, or a plague of frogs, which I don't know, frogs are continually like following you, falling out of your pockets. Like, again, that might be one that's like not appropriate for a more stern, serious god like Tyr in Norse mythology, right? The judger of people, the left-handed god. But Loki might work just fine.
Mm-hmm.
We also talked about enemies of the deity send someone after you, or members of your own faith send someone after you to beat you up, which starts to veer into a little bit of atonement. But I like the idea of, as we kind of discussed in the pre-show, like in Skyrim, you did a thing, you didn't realize you did a thing, or maybe you did realize you did a thing, and you travel a couple of towns over, and suddenly someone shows up and says, you're under arrest.
Yep.
Or you're going to be the Assassin's Guild is here to kill you.
Yeah, that was the thing that Ken and I was talking about right before, was I did something in Whiterun, didn't realize it, or did, but didn't realize someone saw me or whatever. Fast traveled to my home, which is one of the houses that's like out in the middle of nowhere, and then sleep. And then as soon as I open the door, there's a Whiterun guard right outside going, hey, you're coming with me. And I'm like, you're well outside your jurisdiction, dude. Yeah, follow you to the end of the earth. If you did that, I would suggest a custom set of mishap tables for priests. You can kind of already do that, but with the whole penance side of things, because one of the things you can do is have a sacrifice of like, at first level, it's like 5 gold, but you don't have to go with the sacrifice. You can have the deity give them a quest to do, or other things like that. So there's a lot of GM leeway with priests on how you punish your priest who has critically failed on a spell.
Yes. So the next one is experience per session, not per monster or treasure.
You skipped one, but we can go back to that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we'll keep going with this one.
Sure. Okay. So Now I have to renumber them. So number 4, experience per session, not per monster or treasure. So the details were 1 XP per session. At second level, you need 3 XP. At third level, you need 4 XP. The idea is it's easier to keep track of. This is, again, provided by Brent Norton. And we had the question, is the number of XP needed equal to the level you're going toward? That sounds what like the progression is, right? So if you're a second level, you need 3 XP, which means that would take you to third level. I do get how this would make it easier to keep track of, but I kind of like doing experience as I go along.
Yeah. Okay, I'm rereading this. The 1 XP per session. So for second level, I'm going to real quick look this up. I believe you need XP to get to second level. Am I right?
In the standard rules.
Here in the standard rules. And I think what they're saying here is because the next part said at third, you need 4 new sessions.
Right.
Where's leveling up?
I got it. Okay. So level advancement in the core rules is level 1 requires 10 XP. You level up at 10 XP. So you would go to level 2 at 10 XP.
And then it resets your XP.
Well, level 2 is 20 XP. Level 3 is 30 XP. Right?
Okay.
And once you reach a new level, your total XP resets back to 0 because presumably you're fighting tougher monsters, encountering weirder things.
Got it. So this house rule is 1 XP per session. And so this is saying at second level, you would need 3 XP to level up. And then to get to third, you'd need 4 sessions.
Right. So by third level, you'll have had 7 or 8 sessions, depending on, you're starting with level 1, right?
Yeah. If you start at level 1, I think it's saying to reach third level, you'd need 7 sessions to reach third level, which is a slower progression than I am used to, I think.
Yeah, it's hard for me to judge with my lunchtime game because our progression is so
You only have an hour?
Because we only have an hour, so it might be slower, it might be faster, I can't tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think this, if this works for you, great. Obviously, no wrong answers in this case. I might also go with milestones per like D&D 5th edition, right? Just like for arcs, like when I get to this arc, everybody levels up. I do like just being able to have like, hey, you found something cool in the dungeon, I'm giving you XP right now. So I don't know that this works for me personally, but I can see how it would work for people who just want to like take all of the bookkeeping, make the bookkeeping easy. Did you play? You get an XP.
Yeah. And it does have a knock-on effect. So same with milestone is if you want to use carousing, that's mainly to gain XP.
True.
And to drain your players' coffers of gold.
Right.
So it is one of the reasons why characters want to get gold is to go carousing to get that XP. So that would take that entire system out of the game, and then your characters might have more gold than you might want to give them, which they might spend on magic items, which are a bit more powerful in terms of bumping characters up than they would be in 5th edition right now.
Yeah, I mean, you could also say carousing, but now you're going to change the carousing rules in some way so that you're earning some other boon, have a boon rather than a XP bump or a magic item,
right.
Like a temporary boon or something like that. But now you're engineering a new system to compensate so that carousing stays around. I like carousing. It's super fun. I mean, buildings aren't going to burn themselves down, people. You need carousing.
Right. I know. Your characters going out and stealing from a noble and then getting sober as they're getting caught, isn't going to happen by itself. Well, I don't know. It's players. They sometimes do that. I'd like to hear if anybody has done this and how it has affected the game compared to how Shadowdark XP normally works.
So next up, we've got max hit points at first level, again by Brent Norton. Well, I mean, you'll have less people die.
Right off the bat, yes, you'll have less people die. You won't have the character who has 1 hit point running around, but at least not at first. Eventually, you might get them down there. But yeah, I like this idea personally because if you are playing Shadowdark, people always say Shadowdark's really deadly. And it can be, but that's also kind of forcing the players to play smarter rather than just go in guns blazing every single encounter.
Yes.
And like our Shadowdark game, which is mid game, we probably play part 2 in a couple weeks. But there's a spot where Josh didn't like one of the NPCs or both of the NPCs that were with them because they thought they were not good people. Hint, they're probably not good people. And just like waited till people weren't looking and then murked the guy rather than doing like a straight up combat when there were like, what is it, like 10 of them nearby or whatever. So made Josh think a little bit differently about how to do this.
Yes. No, go ahead.
I don't think max hit points at first level is going to break that. I think having max hit points at first level is going to allow first level characters to survive to second level and lead to a better group cohesion rather than having a character die at first level and then someone have to roll it up and maybe they don't care about this character as much as the character they just had.
Yeah,
because they might just die.
I think I've killed one. No, I think maybe they just swapped out their character. I'll have to go double check my notes. But in any case, I've killed way, way, way more first level characters in D&D 5th edition than I have in Shadowdark. Because I have maybe one who outright killed and another one who died for story reasons. So I think that partially goes to people feel like they're superheroes in 5th edition. And the monsters can hit hard. And I do think people have been super cautious. Like, at least in my game, people are just a little more cautious. They're very, like, they guard the torch, right? Like, they're very conscious of, like, moving forward through the dungeon in ways that you don't see. I don't think this breaks that. I think if you did it at every level, maybe it starts to break things. But
yeah,
I think first level, they're just going to live a little bit longer, maybe.
Yeah, I remember Shadowdark can be deadly, especially at first or second level, because I had you guys start at second level, I think.
Yeah,
in the game that we have, and you guys were still surprised when one of the monsters attacked you, and you're like, "Wait, it has more than one attack?" Right. Because we hadn't played Shadowdark enough to realize, wait, even though we only have one attack, that doesn't mean monsters only have one attack.
Yes.
A few people almost died there. A few times.
Yeah. So the next house rule we're going to have to riff on a little bit, magical tattoos. So in this house rule, they have a magic tattoo system and use warp stones and moonstones. Spellcasters need to find or buy moonstone and have it turn into ink and tattooed onto their bodies, 1 pound per tier of the spell. The problem is I don't know what a moonstone does. So when I first read this, I'm like, oh, well, obviously it must be some sort of warp back to town thing, because I was thinking about Diablo or what have you. So I did not think to ask the follow-up question of Brent Norton, who provided yet another hack. So Brent, if you want to elaborate on this YouTube episode, we would be more than happy to hear that. In the meantime, we're just going to make stuff up.
Yeah.
So Dave,
I mean,
what's your take?
I mean, it sounds to me, I think it was like, it's one of the complete books from second edition, one of the splat book stuff that came out for second edition that I think had a tattooed class. And this almost sounds like, I mean, it is a new system. It is definitely a house rule.
Yes.
But it sounds like you would have magical tattoos that might cast spells or imbue protection or do something that is kind of like a magic item, but permanently attached to you.
Or it could be a one use, because he talks about replenishing it. If we go with my interpretation that it's a warp back to town, I'm not opposed to that. I think it solves stuff, especially if you guys are not enjoying the journey and you just want to get, like, maybe you enjoy the journey out, but you don't enjoy the journey back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Cruz had fun with both. But I can see wanting to just be able to warp back to town. Like, it changes the flavor of Shadowdark a little bit, but if that works for your crew and you're getting to the fun part faster, because again, the buildings are not going to burn themselves down by themselves, then sure, I could see having a warp back.
I mean, I can see it. The warp back part was something that we had a real hard time with. Unfortunately, it hasn't gotten off the ground. I'm still hoping it will. But one of the people is putting together a corporation-wide role-playing games thing. And basically people will be investigating in a West Marches style, but it's a mega dungeon. But we only have an hour, similar to your lunchtime games.
Right.
But we want it to be West Marches style so that 1 hour has to be self-contained. However far you get is how far you get, and then things have to reset. And we were like, how do you enforce the reset, or how do you get players back to town and have the reset? Now, our answer to that was, like, there's a magical portal that gets you into the mega dungeon that closes in an hour. And if you aren't back, you're still in the mega dungeon, and we'll hand you a new character. You know, your old character may be found as a body or becomes a new monster in the mega dungeon. Who knows? But this would allow you to town portal, using the Diablo terminology, but, you know, basically come back when the time was up. And that might be kind of cool, because I've actually thought about for the Lair actually doing a West Marches style set of stuff for any of our audience out there, of just like, hey, play with us, you know, we'll get together a game, pick 4 to 6 people and play for an hour or two, and then or more, but have it be West Marches style, so it's a continuous campaign.
Right. Yeah, I think we had talked about I think it would be an interesting idea. We have a lot of fun ideas, and some of them we will actually do. Another fun idea, we got this from Sly Flourish's Shadowdark House Rules, which is a mix of mostly house rules with a couple of, hey guys, this is how the rules actually work. But in this house rule, it's don't lose a spell until you've succeeded at least once, which I like because it avoids the you failed, so sorry, right? Now you've lost 1/3 of what your character is capable of doing. So I like that idea. Like, it hasn't been a big problem for me because I think the DCs are low enough that we haven't, and we have enough. We also have the luck generating class.
Priest.
Seer. There we go.
Or no, seer, right?
Seer. Bards and seers can generate luck. And so generally speaking, this hasn't been a problem for us. But I could see with the right party composition, you know, wanting to do this so the wizard doesn't lose their spell. Or cleric.
I mean, Erin's character in our Shadowdark game burned through several spells because she failed the spellcasting check. And I would say there's 2 versions of this spell, or of this house rule. Sorry. One is whatever spell you're casting, you won't lose a spell until you have successfully cast a spell, which is what I use at home. Is if you're casting Magic Missile, and even though you have advantage, you fail. The first time if you haven't successfully cast a spell yet, you don't lose it that time.
Right.
And you can keep trying any other spell, but until you cast a spell successfully, you're not losing any spells. On Sly Flourishes, the way it reads, which is a slightly different way of doing it, instead of losing access to a spell when you fail a spellcasting check, you instead lose the spell only if you've cast it successfully at least once. Right. Which is different, because that means all of your spells, you basically get a freebie for any of those spells, or actually for all of those spells. And I was talking with somebody at Origins when I was playing Shadowdark at Origins, and he was saying that his group used to play with it, but that particular flavor of it led to some abuse where people knew that they could cast Fireball 100% of the time because they knew they would always get a fireball off, even if they failed like 4 times before that.
Okay.
So something to be aware of. I'm not saying don't use it. There's just something to be aware of.
Okay. So moving on to our 8th rule, removing character classes that generate luck. So classes like the Bard and Seer generate too much luck during games, or so we have heard, or what people might complain about. And having luck easily at hand removes a lot of the risk in Shadowdark. Things like spellcasting become easier and more certain. Luck is sometimes hoarded by spellcasters so they don't fail. Interesting. My biggest problem is my Seer, and I think I'm just going to change this, talking about house rules. Technically, the Seer, and I don't know how I have to double check how the Bard works, but the Seer, it's any roll, which would include carousing rolls, which means the Seer is always adding, like, you're always rolling well on the carousing table, which has its own implications.
So what's the Seer actual rule? Are they generating luck, or is it
they generate luck token? Yeah, I think so.
Okay, because technically luck tokens can be used on carousing rolls if you happen to have a luck token.
But yeah, so I mean that's what we had talked about that online. I think I brought it up on Dice Camp. People were kind of like on either side, like on the one hand saying it's only an in-game thing, like if you're out adventuring, then yes, you get to use your luck token. If you're carousing, different table, not appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, in a regular game that does not have a seer, this is less of a problem, because if you happen to have a luck token, sure, go ahead and spend it. But the seer can kind of generate it on demand. Not always, because we've had them fail. But
yeah. Well,
you're
priests
more
can
likely
too
to.
with bless. Bless gives you people a luck token. In Shadowdark rules as written is you can cash in a luck token, re-roll any roll you just made. You must use the new result. Even normally you should be able to use it on carousing. But you're using it up at that point. The things that I've heard with it having too many luck tokens, in my opinion, you almost might want to just play pulp version so that you can have multiples. There's probably going to be a different feel of it if you have 2 or 3 luck tokens versus you only get one at a time and then have to generate a new one. I know with priests, they always have that chance that the bless spell fails and you don't generate it and you lose the spell. Can seers lose the ability to generate luck tokens?
No, but they can only do it 3 times per day. So I
Okay.
just got out my Curse Scrolls 3, which I do
Nice.
love. And looking at it, it's like you have Omen 3 times per day. You can make a DC 9 Wisdom check. On a success, gain a luck token. You can't have more than 1 luck token at a time, but they can give them to other folks. So I guess we have maybe this should be don't allow more than 1 luck to be spent for spell casting, or you must use the new result could be interpreted as only a single luck can be spent on a roll, so you can't spam them. I haven't had this problem.
Yeah, I've heard 2 different interpretations on luck, where the you must use the new result means that you can't spend another luck token. Even though you had to use that result, you couldn't spend another luck token to get a third result at that point.
So we could interpret that as a D9 or even the D10th optional rule that we talked about in this podcast. But
that is true. I believe I have allowed multiple luck tokens to be spent on a single roll, because right now luck tokens are such a limited resource with 1 luck token per person. Even with a priest being able to generate theoretically infinite amount of luck tokens, it's still a DC 11 check, and that could still fail. It's one of those things where I'm okay with spending 2 or 3 luck on a single roll. If that roll is that important, sure, go ahead and do it. You're now 2 or 3 luck tokens down.
Right, and I think what we came to with the seer spending it on carousing and what have you was like, okay, yeah, well, right, he knows where the good beer is. Like, he has the favor of the gods. Of course he knows the right places to go. Now, that did actually lead to them raiding a sorcerer's tower, which led to a building being burned down. See also, buildings don't burn themselves down.
Yep. Well, I mean, sometimes, but
they usually need a little bit of help in some way.
They do need a little bit of help in some ways. Like, I'll say in terms of like carousing, and you just alluded to it, it leads to more adventuring later on, because if you roll a 13 on carousing, you pulled off an ill-advised heist inside a feared sorcerer's tower. So
what we got.
Which, I mean, you pulled it off, so maybe you pull it off without hitch. But 14 and plus, you wake up deep inside the local ruler's stronghold, holding one of their priceless family heirlooms, and footsteps approach. I mean, you gain 6 XP and a 90 to 100 gold piece item from a treasure table if you escape. But the interesting thing about carousing is everyone rolls separately. Correct. They all get the bonus, but everyone rolls separately. So one person could roll that 14 plus and everybody else is somewhere else in town.
Yes.
I'm not that against re-rolling the D8 for the carousing, because it can just lead to more hijinks and more story at that point.
Yes. So it's been fun so far. We haven't had another downtime yet, so we'll see how that goes. But I can see luck, depending on the style of game you're hoping to run, it could be problematic or not. So you could also play around with the DCs for the luck checks themselves. So the seer is a DC 9, but the limitation is you only get 3. You were just saying priests DC 11, bump those up by 2, success goes down. Like, you're nerfing the class somewhat, but if everybody agrees they don't want to be that lucky.
Yeah. Talk with your players.
Yeah, talk with your players. As long as everybody's on the same page, you're not doing it wrong.
Yep. So, all right, we've talked about 8 house rules, D8 house rules. I've been wanting to pick up Hades 2 for a little while, but I also don't know if it's any good. You have a callus on your thumb. That's telling me it's kind of good. So tell me about Hades 2.
Yeah, Hades 2. I should have done more prep so I could have had all the character names and stuff in front of me. But Hades 2, I would say I'm enjoying it just as much as Hades 1, if not more so. It picks up basically you are playing the daughter of Hades and Persephone.
Oh, okay.
A cataclysm has happened and the gods are under siege, and you as the daughter of Hades and Persephone kind of need to figure out what's happening and then try to both help Olympus, which is under siege, but then also reclaim Hades' realm, which has been lost. And so there are options in the game to kind of explore in multiple different paths. There's a lot more little fiddly bits. You are playing basically kind of a sorceress, and she is part of the home base is the Crossroads, which is kind of where all of the misfit toys of the Greek mythology show up. And it's pretty cool. Like it's very. I mean, it's if you enjoyed Hades for the button mashiness, then you are going to enjoy this. So I will take a step back for a second. Like Hades 2 has the same basic setup. You start off, you have basically no abilities, you have a single weapon, what have you, and then you try and get as far as you can in the game. And then you don't. In this game, you don't die. In the original game, you died and you reappear in Hades headquarters. In this game, you basically snap yourself out of the encounter and wake up back in your room. But
you're like astrally projecting or something along those lines?
I think it's more like you cast the spell that gets you back just before you would have died. And so just like in the original game, your character has the weaknesses if you happen to go to the surface. And so it has a lot of like cool stuff. There's new gods and goddesses that we didn't have in the first game. Some favorites from before return, although you might not see them for a while. All new weapons. And this time there used to be like the Board of Fate where you could choose, I don't remember exactly what it was called, but you could choose these various enhancements for your characters and you could build those up. This time you have a deck of tarot cards, and you're unlocking tarot cards and enabling different combinations of tarot cards, which you can then level those up too. So if you like fiddly bits and just like playing around, and like the story is still great, like just all of the NPC interactions are still there.
That's my question. Because I love the button mashing part, but I wouldn't have loved Hades nearly as much. I don't know that I would have even played it had it not been for my friend Mer Lafferty. She was raving about it, and part of the raving was that the story was so good and slowly dribbled in because of the nature of how the game is played.
Yeah, and honestly, with Hades, like it lasted well beyond like completing the game, right? Like,
yeah,
in Hades, you get to the end, and then that's really just the beginning. Now you've got new ways of ratcheting up the action and the difficulty. But wait, the story is still going. Like, I had been playing it for a year, and I unlocked a new thing because I happen to encounter certain characters a certain number of times, right? So Hades 2 shows all the indications of the same. I think Hades 1 had 100,000 words written for it, if I remember correctly. I don't know what the number is for Hades 2, but I know it's bigger. And so it's got cool mechanics. Sorry?
It's a novel's worth.
Yeah, exactly. But you get it in little bits. Just like Hades, you can play it a little bit at a time, or you can play it so much that your thumb starts to hurt. I got it for the Switch, and I got it just before I went on a cross-country train trip. Like the day before I left, Hades 2 dropped, and I'm like, well, I know what I'm doing on the train. Yes, I was going to work on show notes and editing and what have you. Or I could just play Hades 2 for a couple hours.
Probably more than a couple hours.
Based on the condition of my thumb. Sorry?
Probably more than a couple hours, I'm guessing.
Maybe a couple days. It wasn't that long of a trip. It was a Friday to Saturday trip, but and I did fit in a Cubs game along the way. But yeah, so Hades 2, very enjoyable. I would recommend getting it. My son, he like texted me, "I've already beaten it at like 32 heat." I'm like, "Are you going to class? Because it feels like you're not going to class."
That could be a concern for anyone who's in college out there. So go to class, people.
Yeah, he actually I think he got the early release because he was confident. If I remember,
it was going to be good.
He had been playing it before the full version came out. So
gotcha.
He was further along in his journey than I was. But yeah, I've still been playing the heck out of it. I'd love to just pick it up and play it for a bit. Or
Yep. I avoid early access games a lot because I've been burned one too many times. I would probably have picked up Hades too, but I'm also trying to play less video games because I want to do things outside of my office and such. That said, I did just finish American Arcadia, which is kind of like what was the Jim Carrey movie where they filmed him his entire life?
Oh my god. I had it until you asked me what it was.
Of course. That's the way it works.
The Truman Show.
Yes. So imagine the Truman Show meets Walt Disney World. With Walt Disney as the person who built Arcadia or American Arcadia. And it is a domed city, and no one inside the city knows that they're all on TV.
Okay.
And different people have different amount of followers, very similar to like a Twitch chat sort of thing. And the more popular you are, the more weird and amazing things happen to you. The character you play is one of the least watched characters in all of American Arcadia. And you find out that it's all TV from the moment you were born, and you are trying to get out of the dome, being helped by someone on the inside of the media conglomerate that runs American Arcadia. There's a fair heaping of dystopia. The person who created Arcadia in the first place was like a Walt Disney type character, but then when he passed away, like his family and or the corporation took it over and decided to like run with it in a way that he probably wouldn't have approved of. So there's some social commentary in there about how powerful corporations are and can be and what they can get away with. Because, well, you've got an entire dome full of people who don't know that they're effectively slaves and on TV. And yet they talk about the Burbank Act, which was evidently passed to allow this sort of thing in America. It's a lot of fun. It's a puzzly, platformy sort of thing. When your character gets captured or has something bad to them, you restart at a checkpoint and you can continue on. So it's a very linear story. It's not nowhere near a Skyrim sort of thing. It's a very linear story, but it's a good one. I had fun with it. And on my list of things to play next is Slime Rancher 2, because it finally came out of beta. My younger daughter is playing it and having a lot of fun with it. I may be playing that on the Steam Deck. So,
okay.
And
I just pulled up the page. I did not play Slime Rancher 1, so I'm not really familiar with the Slime Rancher franchise.
I would go ahead and play Slime Rancher 1. It's a cozy sort of game. You play a character, Beatrice. It's first person. She never talks, but you herd slimes, and they emit plorts, and you sell those plorts. And it's a little ranch, and you build it up. But it's also first person. You carry around a vacuum to suck up slimes. It's a cute one. It's a cute one.
Good to know.
I see one thing you snuck on to our last parts is the BattleZoo Secret Tomes for Shadowdark, which is a Kickstarter that I backed because evidently I need more Shadowdark in my life.
Well, obviously.
It is 3 new tomes that I think are the same size, basically, as the main Shadowdark rulebook. Same form factor. Kelsey Dion is helping with it. So is Professional Dungeon Master. Who is a dungeon tuber. If you are not aware of him, you should be. So thank you for pasting this in because I couldn't remember what the 3 books were. So there's Monster Hunt, drags you into a world stalked by nightmare beasts, creatures that devour villages whole, and the grim heroes who hunt them down with blood-soaked steel. Then there is Strange and Unusual, which peels back the veil of reality, revealing creatures warped by the unknown and classes that twist the rules of magic, flesh, and reason itself. And then there is Elemental Storm, shadows the world, unleashing terror spawned by volcanoes, storms, and the grinding, shuddering bones of the earth, forces too wild to contain and too ancient to give names. So it's kind of like 3 different setting-ish type things, similar to how Zine number 3 is, where it basically makes things Norse in that sense. It seems like that, but writ very large. I know that there's a system in there for hunting monsters and turning their pieces and parts into magic items and other things like that, which I've seen in D&D before, which is fun.
So I'm looking at the Kickstarter. I thought about backing it. I just didn't. I have the desire, but not the budget.
Right.
So each one's over 250 pages. So cool. And I mean, where they got me is 100 to 150 monsters per book. I mean,
yes.
I love monsters.
Yeah, it is basically 3 monster books along with extra classes and other stuff.
Yeah, monsters.
Yes. They are also partnering up with Professor Dungeon Master to make a Shadowdark compatible version of Deathbringer, which is basically a completely other setting that Professor DM has. It very much fits the Shadowdark tone, and because I backed it, I'll be able to get into the beta of it, basically, which is not the only reason I backed it, but it looks like it should be pretty cool. And if anybody is interested, we're not getting paid for any of this. I would love it if we did. However, they are accepting late pledges available. So if at least at time of recording, which is beginning of October of 2025. So if it's much later, then it's probably in a store somewhere. So go pick it up.
Right.
Or look for our review of it and unboxing of it when I finally get it on my porch.
Very cool. So thanks everybody for attending our latest Minion and Future Overlord training. Like and subscribe to the show on YouTube, where we now have 560 subscribers, which is
it's a slow crawl up the hill.
Slow crawl. It's got, I think we were like just over 500 on just last episode, only a few weeks ago. So we are slowly making progress, but we do want your more house rules. We want more house rules. Yeah, sure. Whatever I just said. We want more house rules. So if you have more house rules or other things you'd like to talk us about, this is a great outro. All the blurps will get into the into shorts. But yes, if you have house rules, if you have other parts of Shadowdark or adjacent games you'd like us to talk about, let us know. You can email us at podcast@lairofsecrets.com, or just stop by YouTube and post a comment.